Howdy, namaste, and welcome back. We're continuing with our third lesson in this religious quest on creation, creativity, and recreation. We're continuing on with our theory and method unit. And today I'm going to give you some philosophical tools that are really necessary. I mean, they're certainly necessary for our course in terms of how to think about religion clearly and theology clearly, how to distinguish carefully between things like soul and spirit or body and mind and all sorts of ontologies. I'm going to give you lots of tools today that are going to be important for this course. But I also really believe that these are just tools that are critically important to help you think more clearly, to be more independent, to be less dependent on other people, which is what independent means. Anyway, I hope that these philosophical tools won't be too daunting or overwhelming. I'm going to give you a lot of heavy stuff today, but I also do believe that this is really valuable, helpful information, valuable skills and tools that you will be able to use far beyond this course. So today, this lesson on philosophical tools is divided into 6 parts. One of them we've already finished. I gave you that Enso, that Zen Japanese Buddhist meditation on circles. Today we'll be talking a lot about circles. So we began with that Enso meditation. Next, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about zero and why zero is my favorite circle and why that's a sentence that anybody would even say. Then we'll dive into some logic, little Aristotelian logic, little Aristotle here and there, and some, Then after that, we'll dive into fundamental ontology. Basically, we're going to perform the phenomenological method, which you already are familiar with, but we're going to perform the phenomenological method on the word is, being. What does it mean to be? What are the different ways that we use that sentence, being, or we use that word is? All right, then after that, since ontology can be a little bit daunting, a little bit difficult and abstract, trying to apply it. We'll think about the ontology of music. What are some of the ways that music can exist? What does it mean to say that music is or music is not, and where does music come from, and that creative process and that sort of thing. Various ontologies of music, and we'll talk about some ontologies of circle as well. Then wrap things up with mutually constitutive correlates. So much of this lesson talks about mutually constitutive correlates, but I won't give you that term until the end of the lesson, although I just gave it to you already. But anyway, we're going to build up to exactly understanding what does that phrase mean, mutually constitutive correlates or MCCs. There's an important philosophical concept that we will be returning to with some regularity all semester. So then we'll, at the end, I like to try and wrap things up, pull everything together, kind of wrap things up with a little bow and do that like I did before. Anyway, let's get started. So, all right, by now you know that I'm prone to ask some, ridiculous kind of questions. So let's go with some ridiculous questions. As you know, the phenomenological method begins with step 0, drawing a circle. But what is a zero? What is a circle? What is a circle? And in fact, what is a definition? Let's start how far back can we go? What is a definition? All right, we're going to work back. We're going to backwards from the last question back to the first question. So what is a definition? What does it mean to define something? Well, in English, the word define, the prefix "d" means to make, to do, to make something, to bring into being, to make. So to make what? Fine, to make fine, not to make fine, but to make finished, to make finite, to draw boundaries around something in order to say, this is what this thing is, and anything that's not inside of these boundaries, it's not this thing, right? So inside of here to inside of the definition, wherever we draw the boundaries, right? So it's to make boundaries around whatever this thing is, and then anything outside of those boundaries, that thing is finished, right? To make finished. So anything beyond these borders, beyond these boundaries is not that thing. So This is what a thing. It's to build a wall, right? To make a wall, to say here's what this thing is, and anything outside of that is not that thing. So to define is to make finite. To make finite, to draw the boundaries around what that thing is. Okay, so that's what a definition is. Now, what is a circle? Well, a circle, now if we were in a classroom, I would torture you, and this would take a while, and I would ask people to come up with definitions of the circle, and then I would shoot them all down, and everybody would think I was a jerk. But anyway, you don't think I'm not going to do that. So let me just give you a definition of a circle. So a definition of a circle is a series of dimensionless points equidistant around a single dimensionless point. Clear? A series of an infinite series of dimensionless points equidistant from a single dimensionless point. A circle is an infinite series of dimensionless points equidistant from a single dimensionless point, right? Well, you know what a circle looks like. There's a good definition of it. So we've defined a circle, right? A circle is this, an infinite series of dimensionless points equidistant from a single dimensionless point, and anything that's not exactly that, anything that's outside of the boundaries of that, is not a circle, right? So if it's a finite series of points that have dimensions that aren't equidistant from a single dimensionless point, then that's not a circle, right? Or if any of those parts isn't true. So that's what a definition of a circle is. What is a zero? Let's give a definition of a zero. Well, zero is a signifier. A signifier is something that points to something that signifies. So a zero is a signifier. Think of a sign, right? A sign is something that points, like sign points, this is the way to the bathroom or whatever. So a sign is something that points. So a signifier is something that points. So points to things. So zero is a signifier. What kind of signifier is it? It's a signifier that signifies nothing. Zero is a signifier which signifies nothing or nothingness or an absence, whole, right? Something that's missing. Nothing signifies nothingness, absence. How does it do it? Zero is a signifier that signifies nothingness or absence. How does it signify nothingness? By zero is a signifier. Signifiers are things that point. Zero is a signifier that signifies nothingness, no thingness, or an absence by drawing a circle around nothing. Easy enough, right? Zero is a signifier which signifies nothingness or absence by drawing a circle around nothing or by inscribing nothing in a circle. It's a placeholder, right? So zero is a placeholder. Zero holds the place of nothing. Zero holds the place of nothing so that nothing can get in, so that no thing can get into that space, right? Let's draw a little circle around nothing, and then this circle will help keep out everything. It'll hold the place of this nothing, right? So that way, no matter what we throw at it, it's going to hold this place, right? Zero holds the universe at bay. It keeps everything out of its nothingness. It safeguards its nothingness by saying, y'all can't come and play in here in my circle. I'm just going to be here holding nothing in place, right? And holding everything outside of my nothingness, right? So zero keeps everything outside of its nothingness. It's a circle that circumscribes nothing in order to signify nothing. Zero is a circle drawn around nothing in order to signify that nothing is there. But in doing so, it turns the there into like the place to be, right? It's like the place, 0 is the place to be. 0 is the place for nothing to be. 0 is the place where nothing can be, where nothing comes into existence, right? Drawing a 0 is a creative act, as we saw the Buddhist monk say earlier. Drawing a 0 is a creative act which brings nothing into being from its nothingness, therefore turning nothing into a something. Nothing. 0, in other words, is a paradox, right? 0 is a paradox because it gives nothing a place to be. It causes nothing to become something. So it's a paradox because in its activity of signifying nothingness or absence, it draws a circle around that nothingness or that absence, so that then we have to distinguish between this nothingness and all the other nothingnesses on the board, right? Like what was on the board here? Let's look over here. Oops. Let's look over here, right? Here there's nothing on the board. Ignore that. There's nothing over there. Nothing to see. Over here there's nothing, right? Where is nothing? Here's nothing, there's nothing, there's nothing, there's nothing. Here's nothing. Let me show you, right? Right here is nothing. But now by drawing a circle around this nothing, I've turned this nothing into a different kind of nothing than the nothing outside of the nothing which it's representing. 0 causes nothing to come into being. It brings nothing into existence. A creative act by inscribing nothing in an infinite series of dimensionless points. It causes that nothingness to emerge into being, and it distinguishes that nothing from everything else, therefore creating a binary between A and not A. That's basically the entire lesson today. But that's just our first time through it. You know how I like to do things, right? Just kind of keep going over the same stuff over and over again, building layers and layers, like building an onion or however you, whatever, and building layers and layers of complexity. So that's our first time through this thing, talking about 0. And let's you know what? Let's take a sip of beer, take a break, and start over for a second.